Bonsoir les amis, this is Llyane Stanfield and you can find me at parisianfrench.com. In fact, when you go to parisianfrench.com, you get the free French crash course, but also you are directed to a form where redirected to a form afterwards where you can actually send me a message. We can also get in touch with each other to have a free rendezvous so that you get much more input from me, like one-on-one input, and I can assess you much better. Even though you may be embarrassed, please don't be. Again, being embarrassed about talking with me about French is just as if you were embarrassed about talking to your doctor about your headache. It's exactly the same thing. So there's no judgment. I'm doing this for a living, and so it is the best place to go and the best person to talk to if you don't want to be judged and if you actually want to find solutions. So what I want to do today, I want to answer, they aren't actually questions this time, but Paul and Julie talking about their level of French and what their challenges are, triggered in me the desire to make a live video for you so that I can address these things. So Paul says that he loves he says, I love the French language and want to become fluent in it. The hardest part is certainly grammar. And Julie says, I want to learn French mainly for work. Having a hard time in terms of listening, writing, and speaking in French since I'm such a beginner. And she laughs at herself and hope you can help me. Merci beaucoup. Yes, I can help you. You are in the right place, both of you and everybody in this group. You have to know that sometimes some of you are in this group because I invited you. Some of you joined because you found the Facebook group, but I am actually selecting the people who are coming in this group. Just notice the description of the video of the group. It is for successful professionals and business people who are wrestling with learning French on their own. And if, for instance, English is not fluent, is a big problem, and it becomes frustrating. And so, but that's just, you know, probably the main reason why I would not allow someone in the group. So do know that everybody here in this group is very similar with each other, and meaning you are not alone. You are in a group of people who are learning French. Why am I saying this? Because I do see some people very active, and I'm so thrilled to see you, and because I can help, I can do something about it. But there are a lot of people who are just watching and reading and hoping to get enough information from someone else's mistakes and apply that advice to their situation. While that works sometimes, with language not so much. Everybody's very different. The questions, the particular challenges are very different from each other, from one another. Now, what you have described here, Paul and Julie, are things more generic, and so this is the reason I do know that this is gonna help most of the people in this group. So I'm going to start with Julie, ladies first. So she says listening, writing, and speaking. So what is, because you want this for your work, yeah, so because you want this for your work, Julie, writing will be needed. Not that I otherwise suggest that you shouldn't write when you learn French, but a lot of people avoid writing if they feel that they want only conversation. And while that is rarely possible to learn to speak without learning how to write in French, because writing and pronunciation go hand in hand. So for that reason, writing is really important if you want to speak. But we can go about it in a different way. But Julie needs writing, and I'm assuming for work. So, well, this group is really good for you because we're writing a lot, right? So most of the interactions back and forth are in writing, and so this is going to help you a lot in writing. So for you and everybody else, I do recommend that whenever there is a word that you don't know, because you're saying that you're a beginner, so of course you may think that you don't have enough vocabulary or enough for what you'd like to use, the language for. And so if you need a word vocabulary, always first go to the dictionary before you ask me, because you don't need me for vocabulary, you don't need me for verb conjugation, and verb conjugation, now that applies to Paul as well, because that is part of grammar. So vocabulary and verb conjugation are two things that you don't need me for, and part of the grammar. So what is in the books, what you actually can flip through the book and find the rule and whatever the construction is, that you don't want to spend your time with me on. So there will be times when if you're asking me a question, I'm going to say, well, look it up in the dictionary and then come back with a word or with a verb conjugated. Don't worry about it though, because everybody gets the same treatment. What I do, the reason I'm doing this with all the love in the world, I love you very much, I just want to help you be self-sufficient. And so relying on me for something you can easily find in a dictionary, and also going in the dictionary, going in the verb conjugator, going in a grammar book, that builds a habit for yourself, which is so important, that you don't resent. Because I'm telling you right now, in my experience, 99% of people hate looking up the words in the dictionary, or the verb in the verb conjugator, or the rule in grammar. So everybody would rather resort to someone else to refresh their memory or tell them the rule or the word. While I understand that, because I'm very much like that, and I also learned 3 languages, and I'd much rather ask someone what's that word than looking it up. But now you have the computer, and it's really much faster. The book, yeah, it's probably more tedious, but you can go in the dictionary, and in the description of the group you have the dictionary, the online dictionary that I recommend. So you can easily go there and type in and look it up. I understand too that when you look up a word, you may get more meanings, and you have to pick the right one. There is also another place that I recommend, langue.fr, where you get contextual, and actually Reverso, the dictionary online that I recommend, is giving you the context as well, and so it gives you in which context would you use one or another, and that you can find. So I am using these tools too, so you should get used to using them. So when we're talking about words, vocabulary, going to the dictionary. When we're talking about verb conjugation, I'm going to tell you, we're going to work together, and I'm going to guide you into finding things. But do that, because that is the reason you learn. That is the way that I'm helping you learn faster. I'm not helping you learn in the way that everybody's teaching. I'm a coach, and I'm a French language coach, and so what I do, I share with you, I help you, I guide you to become self-sufficient and not to ever need anybody else ever again. So, and that is amazing. It's independence, right? So you just go and manage your life in French. So, okay. So this is very, very important for you guys as well as for everybody else, so that you don't get frustrated that I'm sending you to the dictionary. That's not why you're here. The most important part of the French learning, of the French language, is the pronunciation, phrase construction. So pronunciation and phrase construction. While inside of the group, I can do pronunciation, but I can't quite coach you on pronunciation, which is very important. But most of the stuff that you're learning here, just know, is going to be phrase construction. So the drill is this. Even if you are a beginner, you will be able to make the sentences that we're making in writing and use them in conversation like that. And so that's going to give you that independence, that self-confidence, self-sufficiency that will make you go for conversation faster than waiting to know a ton of vocabulary, a ton of verbs, and a ton of grammar. That's the trick. So to speak fast and to make conversation correctly, the trick is to focus on phrase construction. So you are saying listening, writing. Okay, so now I want to give you some tools. So listening, writing, and speaking. For listening, the best tool is watching French movies with French subtitles. French movies with French subtitles is the absolute ideal way to develop your listening. Period, end of sentence. You don't depend on someone to be available or in a mood of doing that with you so that you can listen. Of course, you can do anything else, but anything else would be much more passive. If you make conversation with someone, of course, it's not passive, but anything that else you can do on your own is much more passive, which typically is not. So it is said that, well, we can learn in a passive way just listening. Yes, you can. But the problem is not the absorption of the information. The problem is the how do I use that information? So let me give you an example. If I'm listening to a radio station in French, or I'm just watching a movie in French without subtitles, French subtitles, or just listening, passive listening, or they call it active listening. Okay, let's call it active listening, but it's not active. I'm going to explain why. So if you just listen to something, yes, the subconscious, the brain is going to absorb as much as possible. However, the problem is that the exercise of absorbing with the exercise of producing that language, they are completely different part of the brain. And so you may know a lot, but not be able to use it. I have about 10 clients who are teachers. They're teaching French language at high school level. And they are my clients because of this reason. They know very well the language, but they can't really use it. It's completely different. The performance of the language is a completely different part of the brain and the body that takes care of that. That needs, it's just like practicing an exercise for feet and wanting and expecting your muscles of the arms to develop. It's just the same thing. So it just doesn't work. But it works for listening when you know what you're listening to. So then that is so much more active. So when you're listening, watching a movie, first of all, is much more engaged. And even more engaged, the fact that you are reading in the same time. And so you match what you hear with what you read. And that also helps a lot in pronunciation. If you work with me, you'll know why. This is really important. So that's the main exercise for listening. For writing, I've said we're doing this here in the group. So writing is going to be taken care of here in the group. And speaking, well, in order for you to speak, first of all, the sentences that we're putting together here in the group are going to help you, because you will end up with sentences that you just take them and use it in conversation. So my suggestion is have a notebook and use it whenever we're correcting something together and I tell you, yay, that's perfect, write it down and keep it to use in conversation. And always make your sentences from your real life. So don't make sentences just to put some words together, but make them meaningful to your life so that you can use them in conversation when you talk about yourself with someone in French. And speaking. Oh yeah, so that's what. So this is the prerequisite of speaking, right? Those sentences that we're making here, and then pair up with someone in the group and start making conversation over Skype, over Facebook video. Just make sure that you don't do it for too long with someone who's not coaching you, because you build and reinforce your bad habits, or bad habits. And the next step will be contact me so that we can have that 1 hour rendezvous, and I'll give you my feedback onto how exactly to go about learning in your particular situation. Everybody learns in completely different ways, and not just that, but everybody has a completely different background, experience with the language. Some people have trauma related to language learning, and so do that, and that's how you should use this group for. And Paul, grammar. So as I talked before for Julie, part of the grammar is good to actually just keep going in the book and see the rules. Like for instance, si conditionnel I'm thinking right now, or yeah, grammar. What else? I don't know what I'm. Passé composé and imparfait. These rules that maybe you already know actually, but maybe you don't really apply them well. I'm not sure. We'll see. As I'm getting to know you better, we'll see. But part of the grammar is actually the phrase construction, and that is the one part that you should focus on. It's really important. So as we start interacting and you're gonna start putting sentences together, when there is something that has to do, for instance, with verb conjugation, I'm going to ask you to go into the verb conjugator and get your tense from there. Or do that before I tell you. It doesn't matter. I'll remind you. That's fine. And part of the phrase construction is not so much in the rules. So the reason I'm saying this is everything can be written in a grammar book. Yes. But my method is very practical. It's very, hands-on, because I have you, when you work with me in a program of mine, you are going to speak right away. I mean, I have people who started from zero, no French at all, and they made conversation in the second language, in the second lesson. And that is because you don't need a lot of fluff in order for you to be clear, simple and clear, and make that conversation and build that skill of conversation. And so so vocabulary, verb conjugation, and part of the grammar, which are the bigger rules, I want you to go to the books, and as you keep looking them up, you're gonna start remembering them. I don't like mechanical memorization. That doesn't help, because it goes right in your left brain, and it's just information, but we need to apply it. So phrase construction needs to be a little more organic than that. So that's what I have for you tonight. I think I was pretty detailed, but do keep up the good work. I love the interaction in the group, and ask me questions, and I'm happy to answer each and every one of them. So stay on your game and don't ever give up on your dream to become bilingual. Learn to speak Parisian French and break your language barrier. Merci beaucoup et à demain. Au revoir.